This is the training video for lesson 5 of CARE, which is called the feeling scale. We're going to start by looking at our teacher manual here to make sure that we have all of the necessary materials. You can see for this lesson, we just need our student workbook. We need our self-monitoring worksheet from Appendix A. And then also make sure you have students' mood tracking charts that they have been filling out from the previous week, since we did that mood tracking in lesson 4. So make sure students have that sheet as well, because we are going to review it at the beginning of the lesson. So very similar to how lesson 4 started, we're going to start with some review. We are going to first practice a relaxation strategy to kind of open up our lesson. So I would suggest either about 30 seconds of calm breathing or choosing 3 to 4 muscles to practice muscle relaxation with. Once that's done, go ahead and have students pull out those self-monitoring sheets and just take a quick look at those. Make sure you're praising students for continuing to self-monitor. If we do see scores change, have students reflect on why those scores may have gone up or down. After you had a chance to review that, we're going to go ahead and look at that student goal from lesson 4. So the one they set the previous week. Give students a couple minutes to reflect on if they met their goal or not. Make sure you offer praise for students who did meet their goal, and if students didn't meet their goal, talk about what they could do differently. And then finally, our final part of review is we're going to review that lesson 4 homework and the mood tracking chart. So I suggest starting with the mood tracking chart. Have students look at it. Make sure you offer praise for those who filled it out, even if they didn't get every single day or every part of the day. And then go ahead and have students count the number of times they marked each emotion and write the number at the bottom of the column. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. If we come down here to, there we go, our mood tracking chart. Go ahead and have students count how many times they were happy, how many times they were sad, how many times they were angry, and put that number there at the bottom. And have students just reflect on what emotions did they feel the most, what emotions did they maybe feel the least, are there any emotions that they would like to feel more of, and just kind of have a conversation about the different emotions students felt through the week, if they were surprised by any of the numbers that they saw. So they can reflect over that mood tracking. Oops. Get back to lesson 4 here, or lesson 5, excuse me. One more. There we go. And just share with students that if students marked sad, angry, worried, scared, make sure that they know that those emotions are 100% okay to feel. Everybody feels those emotions at one point or another, but you will be teaching them some strategies in CARE that they can use if they are experiencing those emotions for a long time, or if they're really, really strong emotions, that they'll be able to learn some strategies and some tools that are going to help them with that. And then finally, go ahead and review the homework and have students share some examples of things at school that might have made them happy, sad, angry, or worried. Okay, so once we have all the review taken care of, we're going to actually get started with lesson 5. We have 2 goals for lesson 5. The first is we are going to learn how emotions can have different intensities, and we're going to rank situations on a feeling scale. So we're going to start with this. We talk with students about how our emotions can have different levels of intensity, and that this means that some things might make us feel more strongly than others. So, for example, if somebody borrowed my pencil without asking, I might be slightly annoyed. That might kind of bug me to have my pencil disappear off my desk. But if someone borrowed my car without asking, I would probably be a lot more angry about the car than I would be about the pencil. So that means that emotion can have different levels of intensity. And so you can tell students that one way that we can identify the intensity of our emotions is by ranking them on a scale. So we've got an example here for Momo. Momo has thought of 3 things that makes him happy. Going to the movies, playing on the computer, and playing soccer. All of those things make him happy. But some of those things make him more happy than others. So he's going to rank them on a scale. And this is our scale. You might notice it looks very similar to the one that we've been self-monitoring with every week, or every day of the week. So down here at the bottom, a 0 would mean this is a pretty weak emotion. 4 or 5 would be a moderate emotion, and then a 7 or 8 is going to be a really strong emotion. So Momo's ranked them. He's got playing soccer is a 7, going to the movies is a 4, and playing on the computer is a 2. And so you can tell students that we're actually going to use this scale to rank the intensity of our emotions. And we are specifically going to focus on things that might make us worried, things that might make us sad, and things that might make us angry. So at this point, you can have students go ahead and turn to page 35, and we're going to start off with the emotion worried. So we're going to have students write down 3 things that make them worried at school. Really try and get students to think of things at school that might make them worried. If you have a student who is struggling with this, try and get them to at least think of 1 or 2 things that might make them worried at school, and then if they want to throw in another one from outside of school, that would be fine. But really, really try and encourage students to pick things at school here that might make them worried. And so after students have written those down, have them rank that feeling on their feeling scale, where 0 would be like they're hardly worried at all, and then 8 would be like the most worried they've ever been. And of course, if you have time, feel free to have students share as they feel comfortable. Once students have finished with worried, you can move on to angry. So have them write down 3 things at school that make them feel angry. Again, really try and get them to think of things at school. If you have a student who's really struggling trying to figure something out, you might need to provide them with some examples of things at school that might make them feel angry. And it might not even be, if you have a student who just doesn't seem to get very angry, or worried or sad, whatever emotion you're focusing on at the point, you might give some examples and remind them that they could rank this as very low on the scale. So, for example, if you're having a student who's having trouble coming up with things that make them angry at school, maybe you can say, when you have to stay inside for recess instead of being able to go outside, maybe is the situation. Well, maybe that kind of annoys them a little bit or it bugs them a little bit. They could write that down, and maybe they're ranking that as like a 1 or a 0 on the feeling scale. It's a very weak angry. It's almost more of an annoyed. So you might need to kind of model for students what that looks like, especially if they're having trouble coming up with an example. And then finally, once students have done angry, they're going to go ahead and do when I feel sad. So same thing. They're going to write down 3 things at school that makes them sad, and then they are going to rank that on the feelings scale. And so as you go through this, you can kind of share with students that one really helpful thing about ranking things on a scale is it can help you identify the intensity of your emotions, and if it's something that's up here towards the top, that's going to make you feel very strongly, like very strong feelings of anger or very strong feelings of like anxiety, then maybe that's a situation that maybe you're going to need to use some of the tools and strategies from CARE. Like if you're getting ready to take a test and a test puts you at about a 6 on the feeling scale, then maybe you need to do maybe some calm breathing or some muscle relaxation before you take the test to try and help you get through that situation. So if time permits, you might consider kind of sharing why this is important and why we did this activity. And then finally, don't forget to set your short-term goal for the week. So remind students that their goal needs to start with I will and include what the student will do and by what date, and have them set a goal to practice something they have learned in Lesson 5, and then identify steps to take to reach their goal. And then at the very end here, we've got the homework here. So for the Lesson 5 homework, we've got a list of things that may happen at school, and we're going to have students identify what emotion that would make them feel, and then rank that on the feeling scale. And then don't forget to send home that Lesson 5 parent letter so that they have that. And I will throw out just one more thing that may come up during Lesson 5 that you may want to consider discussing as you go through this, is students might start to recognize that not every situation, the situations that they're identifying when they feel worried, when they feel angry, when they feel sad, might not be the same situation that their neighbor is feeling. So for example, a test might make one student worried, well, it might make another student really angry. And so you might need to have that conversation that not everybody has the same emotions in the same situation, and then that is okay. So it's okay for me to be happy about one thing and my friend to be worried about the same thing. That would be a completely normal occurrence. So just that might be something that you want to discuss throughout this lesson as appropriate. And I think that is it for Lesson 5.